Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of round 5 of Norway Chess 2019. Not the most exciting round, we saw 5 quite uneventful draws in the classical games. Black did really well in the Armageddon. Mamedyarov Grishuk, Black won, when Mamedyarov in a drawn position didn't see that Grishuk's last move was a check. He moved another piece. Grishuk pointed out that the white king was in check and Mamedyarov resigned. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave did not get any winning chances against Magnus Carlsen, and that Armageddon game ended in a draw. We saw the same in So against Anand. No winning chances for white, and the game was also a draw. That leaves Ding against Aronian and Yu against Karana. And in both games we saw very interesting and instructive endgames. Let's have a look at those. White Ding, Black Aronian, the Armageddon game. We had an English opening, and this is the position after the 38th move from Aronian, King f8 to e8. The position is about equal. We have a rook endgame, Black has one extra pawn, and White has a potentially dangerous passed a-pawn. Rook a8 check from Ding, King d7, and Rook f8. And that's a good move. You cannot go to e6 to protect the f7 pawn, because then White wins the rook with this skewer. So after Rook f8, Aronian could not save the f7 pawn. He took on h3 to make a passed pawn himself. Rook takes f7 check, King e6 and Rook e7 check. King went to d5 and a4 running with the passed pawn. Aronian does the same, h4, a5, King c6 to stop the a-pawn and Rook g7. Levon Aronian said after the game, "I'm lost in a zillion ways." And Judith Polgar asked him if he also had considered Rook e4 from Ding as an option to go behind the passed pawn. Aronian's answer was, "I was not considering anything, I was panicking." Rook c7 was played, and in his panic Aronian took on c3. Rook takes g6. Now White has two very dangerous passed pawns. And it was Alexander Grishuk who said, "There are 7 passed pawns on the board." And indeed, this is a crazy position. All 7 pawns are passed pawns. Both players had very little time. How can you play a position like this? No wonder that Aronian panicked. Rook f3 behind that dangerous f-pawn. Rook h6 behind the dangerous h-pawn. h3, and here a very nice move from Ding. A winning move. Rook takes h3, giving up his rook so that these pawns can march on. Aronian had no choice. He took the rook, f7. He had to hurry back to cover the promotion square, but then g6. King b5, g7, White is going to queen. Rook takes f7, and there indeed a new queen appears on the board. White is winning. Rook f1 check, King c2 and Rook f2 check. And here comes an instructive moment. Here White could have played King d1, which makes it a lot easier, not allowing the rook to get to the ideal d3 square with checks. Aronian said, "I was losing on time as well, and I was ready to sign the score sheet." After King d1 you cannot take that last pawn of White's. That would be a great achievement if you can get that pawn off the board, because then there is queen takes c4. You can play c5, but this is a winning position for White. But after Rook f2 check, Ding went to c3. And after Rook f3 check, to d4. And now the rook comes on that ideal d3 square where it is protected with check, with tempo. King e4, and you can already take on a5, because taking on c4 is now a big blunder because of d5 check. A nice fork, winning the queen. And Black will get a draw. After King e4, Aronian did not take on a5. He played d5 check, good move. That pawn is protected by the rook. The rook is ideal on d3. King e5. And now that last white pawn goes off the board. And suddenly this position is a draw. White has no winning chances at all. Queen b8. King a4. My engine gives Queen b1 as a move that still gives white winning chances because the black king is cut off on the a file. It's a very complicated position and it's very difficult to say if this is indeed a chance for white. In the game, Ding took on c7, king b3, queen b6 check, king c2, queen f2 check, king b3. The time control was made. This is move 61. So after the 60th move, the players got 3 seconds of an increment per move. Ding played on till the 93rd move, but after king d1 to d2, it's clear that he has not made any progress, and Ding agreed to a draw here, which meant Levon Aronian got a full point from this Armageddon game. Here we see the handshake, and Ding is always a picture of disappointment when a game has not gone his way. This is the Armageddon game between Yu Yangyi with white and Fabiano Caruana with black. We had a Sicilian opening, and this is move 57, king b6 to c6 from Caruana. Let's see what the position is like. We have a queen, 2 bishops and 3 pawns for white, and a queen, 2 knights and 3 pawns for black. Quite an interesting balance of material. And here Yu Yangyi decided to go for the king and pawn endgame by taking on b5, queen takes, bishop takes, king takes, bishop takes e3, and f takes e3. 3 pawns each, and objectively this position is equal, but both players were very low on time. King f1, king c4, king e2, king d4, and g3. And here's the crucial moment. The only move that draws for black is g5 to g4. After that move, the game is even. Any other move loses for black. Judith Polgar in the live broadcast saw this move straight away. Fabiano Caruana in the game did not find it. He played king d5 and he lost, and we'll see in a minute how he lost. Why is g4 a draw? Well, let's look at a few variations. We have to take that pawn, so let's take with the h-pawn. We'll look at the f-pawn in a second. So h takes g4, then black takes back, f takes, and king e4. White cannot make any progress. g5, king f5, king takes e3, king takes g5. And if you know your basics of king and pawn endgames, then it's very clear that this game is a draw. White will not be able to get to one of these 3 squares with the pawn still on that square. So let's go back. White played g3 and g4 is the only move that draws. We just took with the h-pawn. Let's take with the f-pawn. We get something similar. h takes g4 and you can play h4 here, but then king e4, and again white cannot make progress. Let's look at a variation. h5, king f5, king takes, king g5. You can push that h-pawn. Doesn't really matter. King f4, king h5, king f5, king h6, king takes g4, and king g6. And again, black has the opposition. White will not be able to get to one of these 3 key squares with the pawn on g3. With black to play in this position, white wins. But with white to play, this position is a draw. So in this position, g4 is the move that would have given Caruana an easy draw and a full point from the Armageddon. But as mentioned, he went to d5 with the king. And king takes e3 was played by Yu. King e5, he has the opposition, but it doesn't help him in this position. f4 check, king f5, and king f3. Here Caruana saw what he had done and he resigned. And why is this lost for black? Well, let's look at a variation. Let's take on f4, g takes, and then play king f6, king e4, king e6, f5 check, king f6. White is going to win a second pawn, king f4, king f7, and king g5. And there's nothing you can do against losing that pawn. And then white wins easily with 2 pawns against a lone king. Let's look at another variation, just as an example. King f3 was played. Let's take on f4 again. There's really nothing else. G takes f4. And instead of king f6, he can also push h4. It doesn't really make a difference. Let's look what happens then. King e3, king f6. Black has to go back. King e4, king e6. Yes, it's opposition, but it doesn't help, because the h-pawn will get lost also in this variation. king g5, and the h-pawn is toast. White wins easily with these 2 pawns against a lone king. Caruana saw all that after king f3 and he extended his hand in resignation, and Yu Yangyi immediately pointed out, and it was clear from his hand movement that he said g5, g4 in this position would have made a draw for black. A picture of the handshake, and this was White's only success in the Armageddon games in round 5. So here's the confirmation of the final results of round 5. 5 draws in the classical games, 1 win for White in the Armageddon games, 1 win for black, and 3 draws, which gave black the full point. Those results lead to this table. Carlsen is still leading the tournament with 8 points. Yu is on 6.5. Aronian and So share 3rd place with 6 points. Ding and Anand are on 5. Mamadjarov 4.5. Caruana 3.5. Vasilij Graf on 3. And Alexander Grishuk is still in bottom place, but he finally won a match and is now on 2.5 points. These are the pairings for round 6. Magnus Carlsen will play Ding Liren. Mamadjarov Vasilij Graf. Aronian against So. Anand against Yu. And Grishuk against Caruana. Round 6 will be played on Monday the 10th of June, and I will be here after the round to tell you what happened. I may not be able to post the video a few hours after the games have finished, as I've done so far. It may be Tuesday morning before I can post the video. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of round 5. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.